Okay, so one of my favorite games of all time is called Before Your Eyes. I don't want to spoil it, but I can at least give you the premise of the game. It's really unique and that its mechanic is blinking, as in it uses your webcam and it tracks when you actually blink into your camera. And it tells the story of a young boy growing up, and every time you blink, you jump to a new part of his life. Something that I honestly do worry about a lot of the times is like, can my games ever reach mainstream success? Because some of the topics that I discuss are more niche.
Welcome to another episode of the 3D Art Show with Gabe. Today I have a special guest host. I have Shiloh. How you doing, Shiloh?
Pretty good, pretty good.
Well,
Glad to be here.
yeah.
I'm Shiloh. I'm
Yeah.
17.
Shiloh's usually behind the studio. He's usually doing all the knobs. However, he has a lot of I shouldn't say a lot. For his age, he's got a considerable amount of game development experience, and I wanted to have him on the show as we interview a CEO of a startup game company. I wanted to ask our listeners and our audience here, have you ever wondered what it would be like to be the CEO of a game company? How would you run things? What sort of games would you make? Today, we get to interview a CEO of a startup company, an indie dev company called Sondering Studios. Her name is Emily, and I met her on TikTok. Emily, how are you doing today?
I'm good. I'm really excited to be here. Thanks for having me on.
So I first met you, I shouldn't say met you, but I first found your TikToks as I was looking for game development TikToks. And you have quite a story. Can you tell our audience how you went from, oh gosh, your story goes back, let's say a college student to the CEO of your own company?
Yeah, so I've always been interested in gaming. Even as when I was in high school, I remember binging a bunch of gaming YouTubers, playthroughs of certain games, and I found myself very attracted to narrative games. I kind of grew up thinking that gaming was for boys and that it was just about shooting, but then as I came across games like The Walking Dead, Night in the Woods, The Last of Us, I slowly realized that gaming could be a powerful medium for storytelling. I knew that I also wanted to be a writer, so I kind of just had this idea, I love gaming and I love writing. Why don't I combine that? So in my junior year of college, I discovered ACM Studio. It's UCLA's club for game development. I joined there. I started taking classes about how to learn Unity, which is a game development engine. And then within a few months, I applied to be a team lead, which means that I would get to manage a small team of students and create a game under my idea. Absolutely fell in love with the community there. Absolutely loved my time at ACM Studio. And from there, I honestly, that was the moment that I realized that this is what I want to do. I did a ton of game jams in the next year. I worked on longer projects, and I just realized that I wanted to actually work in games. Come my senior year of college, I wanted to have a job in AAA games, somewhere like Riot Games and Blizzard, and I was applying, not with much luck to be honest, when I kind of realized through the rejection, do I really want to work at Riot Games or Blizzard? There's absolutely nothing wrong with those, with working there if you want to, but I just realized that it wasn't particularly my dream. I wanted to learn from the greats at those studios, but games like League of Legends is not the type of games I play. The type of games I play are more indie, single player, story games, games like Before Your Eyes, as I said earlier, Night in the Woods, Spiritfarer, Grease, and I thought, why don't I just create the games that I want to make? A game jam that I did in college, I made this game called A Taste of the Past. We literally prototyped it in 3 days, and there was a massive positive reception. We decided to polish the game a bit over some time after the jam. We posted it on Steam, and the reception we got was bigger than we imagined. The game has an overwhelmingly positive rating on Steam, and we were honestly just flooded with kind comments about people saying, I wish this weren't free. I would have paid for this game. I really connected to the game's story. The message of this game is really powerful to me. And that was signaled to me that maybe this is the industry that I do want to be in. Maybe I do belong in this industry. So I kind of looked at my team and I thought, let's take this more seriously. Let's do a bigger project. Let's try to get funding. Let's do the whole thing. So we've been working on our next game for the past 4 months. I unfortunately can't share anything about it. It's also going to take us years to develop it, so I don't even know. Concepts may change. And we're coming across a lot of really, really great opportunities with the studio. We've had a lot of positive reception. Again, can't talk about those yet, but many exciting things are coming for us.
Incredible, incredible. It's interesting. You mentioned so much there. I have like 3 or 4 questions just based on what you had said. I didn't even know that game development was, a local hobby. I guess I've been, I'm almost 40 years old. I've been working as an engineer for a very, very long time now. So I've been out of it for a very long time. It was only around COVID that, I was looking at like, what are people doing? And I realized that you have these little game devs, these little game jams, even at a local scene. There is, in my town, I'm calling you from Albuquerque, New Mexico, we have our own game jam community. And I got to swing by and I saw them, and they made like, a clone of Super Smash Brothers or anything like that. It's incredible. It's like, it's thanks to COVID that I actually found out about it. How about yourself, Shiloh? Were you aware of game jams?
I mean, yeah, just because I have a good amount of friends who definitely love game jams, and they go to see what goes on there.
Yeah.
I have a good amount of game developer friends.
Yeah, part of the reason why I brought Shiloh along, and I'm glad I did, is I'm just so out, as a near 40-year-old, I'm just so out of it. It helps to have perspective of somebody who has a different life experience. So thanks for coming along, buddy. I appreciate that. Something else that you had said, Emily, and I think is really, really important is the driver of your art, your motivation. You have a unique story. And I've watched all of your TikToks, so you've had quite a journey and quite a lot of challenges. You're not alone in facing these challenges, if I may say, as a woman in the game industry. Can you tell us a little bit about whatever you're comfortable sharing about your struggles in the industry, as well as the struggles in general, and how that fits with the mission of Sondering Studios?
Yeah, so I'm going to give a quick trigger warning for sexual assault, but if I am able to talk about it on the show. My start with game development was very rocky. I spent a few months learning Unity, and I became a team lead. And essentially, in the first week of becoming a team lead, someone in the club sexually assaulted me. And it was really shocking. It was, another lead in the club. It was someone that everyone looked up to. Everyone loved. Everyone, honestly, I felt like worshipped him. So it was really difficult for me to process that someone that I once considered my friend could do something like this to me. At the time, I felt like it ruined my game dev dreams. I definitely felt some sort of isolation in the club. But I quickly realized after some time has passed, and now especially looking back, I really do feel like that experience was formative in causing me to start my own studio. Again, this is also a large factor for why I decided it was okay not to work at a studio like Riot Games and Blizzard, who honestly have a pretty dark history with abuse and assault at their companies. I want to create a company where we have a safe environment, where people feel like they can express their ideas, and where people can share their vulnerable experiences, and that's okay. I also think that there just is power in seeing, I'm a woman of color in a leadership position, starting her own company. I've received tons of positive messages from women saying, I didn't want to join the industry because I was scared of, XYZ, but seeing your TikToks and seeing you thrive has really motivated me to start my own project. I have a Discord where game developers can chat, and actually from my game dev, a couple people have started their own projects with just other members of the Discord.
The fact that Discord opens the community for anybody like this. I know, and like almost every one of my guests so far has had their own Discord. So yeah, we'll put the Discord up on the screen and invite all of our audience to listen to it. I think your story is, I think it needs to be said. I've seen cultures even where I work. I work on a military base, and I've seen people with like a lot of charisma, and a lot of people don't want to question when a leader of a social group does something that's very, very antisocial to one or more members. And, as a victim of sexual assault, I can only imagine it's got to be extremely hard. You don't know what to do about it. You're probably almost in denial yourself. I don't want to go too much into it because, I haven't experienced that myself. But the fact that you're sharing your story, I think is incredible. So I thank you for that. And all of our listeners do need to hear it. And, that's showing them that somebody is speaking out, and that obviously is a form of power. So thank you again for sharing that story. And there's a lot more, I'm sure, that could and should be said. On that note, I think Shiloh was watching your TikToks earlier, and you had a question yourself. You want to go ahead and share, Shiloh?
Yeah. So the question I had was just, what was your opinions on how the gaming society or community is right now, and where it's going?
Do you want to compare? In terms of with sexism and things like that, or just in all aspects?
I was just thinking in all aspects.
Okay.
We could go in terms of sexism. That's honestly a good topic for that.
Honestly, I see the game industry as changing in a really positive light. I feel like as time goes on, indie games are getting more recognition. Games, I don't want to say feminine games, but I would say more cozy games like Stardew Valley and Grease and Spiritfarer, and honestly, all of my favorite games I feel like are getting more attention, which is very exciting. Also, a quick note on that: I feel like a lot of people say only girls like cozy games, but I just want to say that Stardew Valley was made by a man, Grease was made by men, so it's not just girls who like these types of games. But yeah, especially for me, the game that I'm creating, it's very story driven, it's vulnerable, it's heartfelt, and let's say we were to rewind the clock 10 years ago and I wanted to release this game, I really am not sure that anyone would have cared. I'm not sure that I could have a social media presence where I could openly talk about these types of games and people would comment their support. So the fact that I'm able to now, I feel like indicates that the industry is moving in a really positive change. I feel like, more and more people are caring about representation, accessibility, creating opportunities for people of diverse backgrounds, and also just creating more diverse games. So I'm very excited to see that, and I hope to be part of that change in the industry.
I absolutely agree. And Stardew Valley, by the way, is a great game.
I love that game.
Yeah, my daughters play that. My daughter gets very frustrated in trying to teach her mom and I how to play it. We're older parents, we're trying to figure out these young things. But yeah, they play it all the time. So very good game. All right, here's a fun question I have for you. In all of your experience with gaming, do you have, I'll just say, a top 5 moments in gaming of any game that was most impactful for you, and for what you think of when you think of positive experiences with games?
Okay, so one of my favorite games of all time is called Before Your Eyes. I don't want to spoil it, but I can at least give you the premise of the game. It's really unique and that its mechanic is blinking, as in it uses your webcam and it tracks when you actually blink into your camera. And it tells the story of a young boy growing up, and every time you blink, you jump to a new part of his life. That game's success, now it's even on Netflix as a mobile game, really showed to me that narrative is a force to be reckoned with in gaming. No longer are people just looking for games where they want to grind and scream at their computer. People are looking to games to teach them important life lessons. When I played that game at the end, I was sobbing at my computer, and it just really reignited my purpose in gaming. To see a game like that be so successful affirms that the types of games that I want to make can also be successful. Something that I honestly do worry about a lot of the times is can my games ever reach mainstream success? Because some of the topics that I discuss are more niche. For example, a lot of my games are about being Chinese, specifically Chinese American. Honestly, I feel like these games are like my diary. I just share the honest, deep secrets of my life in them. So it's very exciting to see other games doing the same and winning awards, traveling across the world to go to conventions. Playing Before Your Eyes, the entire game, it was just a formative experience for me.
I'd love to hear a little bit about some of the conventions that you've gone to and what you've gotten to witness at those conventions.
Yeah, so the 2 conventions that I've gone to so far are Games as a Color. I was actually a featured speaker and my game was featured there. And then GDC, which is Game Developers Conference. So firstly, Game Developers Conference. I absolutely love that I love it. It's in San Francisco. It happens once a year. I will be going next year in 2023. And it's a place where you can hear developers share, postmortems about what went right and wrong in their game. People talk about, how to market your game, more like niche subjects in gaming where industry leaders will give their insights. But to me, why I love to go is the community. When I was in college, I had a lot of trouble finding people that resonated with me. When I joined my college's game dev club, that was the first time that I felt like I had found my people, right? And so GDC to me is just everyone's my people. We all share the same love for games, and I'm the only person that I really know who's starting a game studio, right? In my social circle. But at GDC, I see so many people just like me, and we can all learn from each other and commiserate in the hardships. Highly recommend going. Also, if you're a game developer who's looking for opportunities like funding for your game, maybe you want a job, GDC is also great for that. As for Game Devs of Color, it is an online conference. It was in person before the pandemic. And it's exactly what it is. It celebrates game developers of color. It's actually the first conference that a game that I've made has actually been in, which is very special for me. But I think that conference is also great for, a studio like mine because a lot of us come from an Asian background. Like a lot of us are people of color. So of course we want to celebrate other games showcasing that. And in that one, they have talks that are more like person of color centered. For example, like how to write a video game that is representative and not offensive, like how to depict black hair in gaming, like topics like that. And they also showcase, a bunch of really cool games. Mine was showed. And yeah, I would say like I had a great time at Game Devs of Color Expo because because I was a featured game, I was able to be connected to people who I'm now potentially working with now that the expo is over.
I'm curious about the community of older adults who have their games, and I'm not, I'm 40, so that's.
40's not too old to be. There's no age that's too old to be a game developer.
Okay, I've seen cool stories about. I'm sure you've heard the story about the grandmother in her 70s.
Yes, I know that story.
Isn't that right? So yeah. Now I will say this. I think that my own demographic are going to be parents who have young kids who have no time for games. So you probably have maybe a 10-minute session max. Well. I don't know. You're in the bathroom or your kid is down for a nap. You just had a quick game. So I think that's why cell phone games are popular in my demographic. But I'm sure there's a community out there for everybody. So it's quite a time for inclusivity. I have a lot more questions, but I want to defer to you before I steal the show.
Yeah, I actually did think of a question while you're talking about the community. With Sondering Studio, are you guys planning on possibly going into the VR kind of world? Because that's kind of a booming kind of community right now within the gaming community. Or staying console/Steam? What's the plan?
Right now, we're thinking about just console and Steam. VR is a very interesting world to me. I own an Oculus. I also work at Meta, which we own the Oculus. Like that's part of the company that I'm in. But frankly, developing for VR is very difficult. I have inquired my friends about this, like what if we made a VR game for fun? But the truth is that it's just extremely hard to make a VR game. There's not nearly as many resources about it online. And for that reason, not yet. Maybe one day, but definitely not soon.
I have a fun question. I call this one a fun one. Being an artist and being a programmer and a game developer at times is very hard, very hard. In my own journey, I've had so many projects just burn or things I just couldn't do. I'd love to hear about, there's a TikTok that you make specifically where you talk about you have to make, I think you said 10 bad games before
10 bad games.
Can you tell us about some of your big struggles and frustrations and how that made you into a better game designer?
I have so many. I have so many. Okay, so the very first game that I worked on was a flop. It never got finished. It never saw the light of day. I had this idea for a game about a couple who had different communication styles and they would end up together, not end up together. It's kind of like the idea for the game was kind of like the game Emily is Away. And this was my first game. I was so psyched to do it. I was honestly like so ecstatic. And then the pandemic hit. And then I had to move back to my parents' house. And then I just had a bunch of other issues in my life. And then that game just completely flopped. And for a long time, I felt like I had let down the developers of that game. We're just a team of students, but at the end of the day, they chose to work on my project, right? And I held a lot of guilt because I felt like I was finally at my dream, yet I still couldn't do it, right? But then that summer was when I started a new game, completely new concept, got all the developers of the old team back onto this new team, and that was the actual first project that I finished. And looking back now, I think it was important for me to fail a project, to know what that's like, because through failing, I also realized how important it is to pick yourself back up. A failure doesn't have to be forever. As for bad games I've made, there's a lot. A lot of my failed games have been through game jams, which is an event where you make a game in usually 2 to 3 days under a theme. And a lot of my games are bad because they're super experimental, and I think that's totally okay. One thing I love about game jams is that I don't just have to be a writer. Even though that's my primary goal, at my day job I'm a designer, so I can try designing for games. I could try doing UI UX. I've even I played the flute in high school, so I've actually also played my flute really badly in a few of the game jam games I've done. I've done voice acting for a game. I've done art for a game. I even did programming for a game. I don't usually program, but it was a challenge where we had the programmers do art and the artists did programmers, right? So, not everything's going to be perfect. And I think it's really about just accepting that learning is a part of the process. When you first start game development, of course you have these big eyes. You think, oh, what indie game do I want to make? I want to make Stardew Valley. That was just one guy, right? I want to be the next Life is Strange. And then you realize that you can't even make a ball roll in Unity. And I guess humbling yourself very quickly is important. And then accepting that things are going to be terrible is actually so important. I feel like I learned so much by just realizing this is not going to be perfect. I can't get, if I spend forever on a game, if I want to make a game perfect, I'm just not going to finish. I think the biggest hurdle in game development more than anything is just finishing. Even if it's a terrible product, the finish line is the biggest line. It's the most important line to cross. So embrace failure, essentially, and embrace that you're not good. Go into it knowing that you're not good, but through the not goodness, you will become great in the end.
So before this interview, actually, I went through and I watched every single one of your TikToks, every single one of them. You got a whole lot of stuff there. It's very impressive. With one of them, you were talking about all the tools that your team uses. Real quick, can you tell us a little bit about what comprises your team, what positions that there are? I think our audience might be surprised to find out that your own background is writing. It's not so much, programming or other things. So tell us a little bit about your team and what's needed to make a game at Sondering Studios.
Yeah, so I never majored in games. All of my experience in games is essentially self-taught. Actually, I don't think anyone in my team majored in games. We have one person I think is minoring in game design, and that's really it. I wear a lot of hats at the studio. So I handle all things business. I do get help, but I'm the main business person. I do the project management. So anytime we have a meeting and we're checking in on deadlines, that's me. I do all the marketing, which includes making all the TikToks and the Twitter. I send a lot of emails out. I am also the only narrative person on the team, so I do all the narrative design and all the writing. So I end up just spending a lot of time doing a lot of things. And that's very typical for an indie game studio, for someone to wear multiple hats. But to speak to my other members of the team, we have artists, we have programmers, we have an artist who's probably also going to be doing UI UX design for us. We have composers, and we also, out of the artists, one of us is an animator too. We have about 11 people working for the game. We also have one person who just kind of helps me here and there, making graphics for our Twitter. It's definitely a team effort. Even though I do feel like I'm the one kind of like herding all the people in, every person's contribution is so valuable. I look at the work that my artists produce and I think, yeah, I could never do that. There's a reason that I chose to work in a team and not do solo development. And the thing is that I just know I'm not the best at everything. My specialty is writing and design, but even I'm not the best at writing design, right? I'm definitely not the best at art. I'm definitely not the best at programming and definitely not the best at making music, right? So why not just get people who I think are way better than me? And that way we can create a more cohesive game in the end. Um, a lot of these people I met through going to UCLA. Some of them are just mutual friends, and then some of them I found on Reddit. And somehow we make a crazy, but hopefully very good team.
Awesome. Very cool. Very cool. One of your TikToks also, you talk about your use of Discord, and specifically you say, if you want to know how we organize our Discord, just ask. So I think I'll put you on the spot and ask, how do you use Discord as a tool, and how do you organize it to your advantage?
Okay, I'm going to open up my Discord just so I have it.
Sure.
So I made, I would say, many Discords. Every time I do a game jam, I make a Discord. I think just having like one group chat is just it's not enough. You need separated channels for organization. So this is the method that I've come up with after making many, many Discords. So to like break it down, we have like one, I guess like category that's just for like announcements, general, chatter. Then we have ones for like, we have a channel for like thanks. You can thank a member for something great that they did. We have one for like motivation. If you hear an inspiring story, or, if a game that you really liked won an award, we send it in there. Then we have like more like business related channels, things that are NDA. And then we have like an info channel. And these are channels that people don't really use as much, but we still need them. So we have one channel just for compiling every important link that we have. Important links including like brainstorming docs, Trello, all that type of stuff. Meeting notes, we write, I try to write a summary every single meeting, just in case for people who can't come. We have a channel just for deadlines. One thing that I noticed is that when I first started making this game, we would just kind of say like, oh, do it by next Monday. But then by next Monday, I would forget that I told anyone to do it by next Monday. So I started recently giving everyone a date, like a deadline. It doesn't have to be like strict, but like having a date in mind. A channel on resources. So for example, like let's say I watch a really great talk on accessibility, I can put it in there to reference later. Inspiration, games that we really enjoy, art that we really enjoy, contact, and that's just putting everyone's contact information in there. And that's just great because a lot of times we get invited to meetings and then I have to add them and I can just use that as a reference for their email. Then we have a whole category just for department. So art, programming, UI, narrative, audio, marketing, level design. And then we have a whole category just for meetings. So like we hold all our meetings on Discord. So, a voice channel to have that.
Okay, wow, very cool. And actually, so on that note, last time I did a lot of work from home was during COVID, and we actually did use Discord for a little while. Where I work right now, it's not remote at all, in fact. So I'm curious, how successful are you guys? Do you guys do it remotely, or do you have an office anywhere where you all work?
We have people, like one of our animators from Australia. We have multiple people who don't live in the US, so we don't have an office because even we do have a couple people who live in LA, but even then we're not close at all. Like one of my programmers lives like south of LA. I live north of LA. So for us to even meet up, we'd like each be driving over an hour. So no office because no one would go to it. Everyone lives way too far away.
Nice. So really, you run a very successful company entirely remotely. That's
Yes.
awesome. That's incredible. I love hearing about case studies of different places that do that, and you obviously do it. So that's very cool. Are there any challenges with doing things remotely that you maybe wouldn't have if you had one off?
I think the big thing is honestly team culture. We try our best to have a great culture, but it's bonding isn't as strong when someone lives in Australia and I live in California. I have members of my team where I've never even met them, right? So it can be harder to form those necessary connections. Also, I just feel like communicating can often be really difficult. So we have meetings twice a week where we kind of like get check in on everyone and delegate tasks. But people don't necessarily just work on those 2 days, right? They can work any time of the week, and they may finish their task, at a time where not all of us are online. So like sometimes I feel like we can miscommunicate because like let's say we say something during a meeting and then that person doesn't come, but then we forget to tell them what they missed, and then they maybe sometimes like a person will submit work, but there was miscommunication about like the specific guidelines of that work. We try our best to be on top of it with organization and communication, but inevitably, there are a couple things that fall through the cracks. And that's why I created the deadlines channel, because that was a big one that was falling through the cracks. People would be confused about what their deadline was because we just say it verbally. And this way we have a way where we can reference, hey, this is the deadline that you also agreed to.
Wow. So one of the things, if I may shift gears here from Discord, obviously the project that you're doing right now, we're not going to talk a whole lot about because it's still being developed, NDAs and things like that. I would really love to hear about the game that you released, and I'm sorry I'm blanking on the name of it, but the one...
Oh, A Taste of the Past, no worries.
I'm sorry, what?
A Taste of the Past?
Yes, A Taste of the Past. I saw the TikTok response where you got, I think it was an overwhelmingly positive review on Steam. Is that right? When was that TikTok released?
Probably a few months ago, maybe August, I assume.
Okay, yeah, it was an exciting one. I'm sure that was quite an exciting accomplishment. I want to hear about A Taste of the Past. I want to play it myself. Full disclosure, I may only be able to play 15-minute increments before I'm interrupted with beautiful little children, but that's okay. I still want to play it, but also I want to hear about your inspiration and your approach with it. Tell us, assuming that your audience knows nothing about the game, tell us your elevator pitch for that game.
Okay, so A Taste of the Past is a part cooking game, part narrative side-scroller about a young Chinese girl who, after the loss of her mother, discovers a train full of her kooky ancestors and has to recreate her mother's recipes, like traditional Chinese recipes. So that game was created for a game jam called Ludum Dare, Ludum Dare. It was a 3-day game jam, and the theme was deeper and deeper. So how we took the theme was, the character is going through a train, and every single train cart houses a different generation. So she's going deeper and deeper in time, deeper and deeper in her family tree. A lot of my team is Asian. I'll just say it. And so we typically just gravitate towards making games about Asian people because that's what we know the best. We had to incorporate that premise. We usually make games about Asian people, as I said. And then as for how we came up with the story, this is really weird to say, but I love writing about families who hate each other, or families who have complicated relationships, families where there's tension, family where there's death. That is just one of my comfort subjects. I don't even know why. I just love writing about it, and so much of my favorite media is about mommy issues, essentially. I love Everything Everywhere All at Once. I love Lady Bird, which all have complex mother-daughter relationships. So, for a game jam, we were experimental because this was the first time that we were doing things like cooking games. We hadn't really made a side scroll like that before, but story-wise, it was something that I felt very comfortable in writing. And essentially, we grinded. Looking back, I don't think I would have done this again. But we stayed up extreme hours to finish this game. I think the last day, we stayed up until 4 or 5 a.m. to finish the game. We went to bed at 5 a.m. and then I think we woke up at 10 a.m. and then worked from 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. when the jam ended. We submitted the game with, I think, less than 10 minutes to go. It was crunch, I can't lie. And when you're so into the game, when you're spending every hour of the moment thinking about the game, working on the game in this 3-day period, and even I'm assuming for studios who work on games for much longer, I had no idea if it was good. I had genuinely no idea. I liked the music. I liked the art. I thought the writing was okay. I don't know. I wrote it, but I don't know. I didn't have much of an opportunity to get any editing on it because it was only 3 days. And then we just put it in the world, and then people liked it so much more than I expected. People were leaving long comments being I have a standing desk. Do you know how it feels to cry when you're at a standing desk? You can't just sink back and cry. You have to stand up and cry. Like, people were leaving these, like, funny and heartfelt. People were saying, like, I had lost a loved one in my life, and this really resonated with me. Oh, people who were Chinese resonated, but not even just Chinese people. Like, oh, like, I'm Mexican and my parents are immigrants, and this resonated with me. And that to me was a signal, like, whoa, I created something special. Because before this, I don't think I was ever proud of a game that I really created. I was in that phase of making 10 bad games to make my first good game, my only good game I've made to this day is A Taste of the Past. I've had honestly so many doubts about my ability as a writer. People say like, oh, you studied English in college, shouldn't you just be a good writer? That is so not the case. Also, as an English major in college, you write like long analytical essays. You don't write heartfelt stories about, family and loss and grief. And it really just gave me the affirmation, go. Like, just take this and go. So my team and I, we worked on it really casually. I literally worked on it like while I was in college. We released it shortly after I graduated. We released it out in the world, and then people loved it even more than I thought they would. Again, like, we were so shocked at the reception for the Game Jam version. We didn't know if people would come back to us and play the full version, right? Maybe they thought, well, I've already played, the demo. I don't need to play the full thing. But people did play the full thing. Reading those comments and the reviews of people showing their support honestly meant everything to me. It was so heartwarming to see people resonate with the game, and releasing that game and having that game be a success has honestly created so many opportunities for me. When it comes to my TikTok, it means I already have something to talk about to give myself credibility. Hey, here's my game has an overwhelmingly positive. Look at that. When I talk to, people who I guess are like bigger than me in games, or people who may or may not give me opportunities, I can say, hey, I've already made this great thing, so you should believe in our studio. An example of this that I actually can talk about is my game was a part of something called Code Coven's Solstice program. Code Coven is an accelerator about empowering marginalized developers in games. And they had something called Solstice program where games would make a social impact prototype in partnership with Unity. By social impact, I mean like, does it help cultural diversity? Does it help education? Does it help social justice? Does it help learning, etc.? And it was literally in partnership with Unity, which is the engine that we use to make our games. And so when, we were interviewing for, to be on that, and also just preparing our materials to even be considered for an interview, we pointed to the fact that, hey, we already made a game that a lot of people really enjoy. So you should take your chances on us because, we're already doing something right. Maybe we can do something even more right if we partner with you.
Nice. Wow. Man, that's incredible. I think that whole last segment is going to inspire a lot of people. Like, that's what I love hearing. So thank you for sharing that. Question for you. So as you were describing the game itself and the creativity with family and ancestry and around food, I was wondering, has anybody compared that game to the movie Coco, the Disney movie, with a similar thing with ancestry?
I've actually never seen the movie Coco, and I personally have never heard comparisons. People do compare my game to some things. They compare it to the book Crying in H Mart, which, okay, here's the thing. I actually had, at that point of releasing the game, I'd never read Crying in H Mart. I read it recently. It was absolutely amazing, and I can actually totally see why people are making comparisons to that. It's an amazing memoir. What else? Oh, people also compared our game to Cooking Mama. Like that game on like the Nintendo DS where like you would make like Japanese food. People also compared it to that. But I've never heard Coco. Maybe I should watch it.
Very cool. One other question that's peripherally related. Your TikTok is quite successful. Not just your TikTok, but obviously your recognition. I love to ask my guests about the moment that, or some of the moments that they went viral, what really, really took off. And, sometimes it's an article about their work or a given TikTok. Can you tell us some of the points where your TikTok or your games really got recognized and got quite a following?
Yeah. Wait, I have like an exact moment to talk. So one of my TikToks, this is when I had like literally 200 followers, right? And I was making TikToks to no one. I remember I made one video that was like kind of memeing like abuse and assault in the industry, like kind of making like a little bit of a light at it, but also creating awareness. I remember that video. At first, it got 4,000 views. I messaged my group chats. Oh my god, what's going on? I was like, why is this TikTok at 4,000 views? And then everyone was like, oh my god, oh my god. And we were like, we're going viral. Literally at 4,000. Like that was insane. That was insane to me. That video ended up getting like, you know, like 40,000 views, I think. And that just like blew me away. I thought, never in my life am I ever gonna make a TikTok that goes as big as that. I was wrong. I would do it. Even actually like, I think like yesterday or 2 days ago, I released a TikTok that has like over 100,000 views. It was a video about these guys saying like, oh, girls, they like to play games where they have control. Like, The Sims. And then I made like a kind of like a retort to that. Well, why do guys like to play games where they kill people then? Like, if you're making the argument about girls, I can make the exact same argument back. Another really formative moment, which sounds so stupid, but there's this influencer. Her name is Pokimane. She's a streamer, content creator, and I do feel like she was someone who really inspired me before I even made games, because she was, she's a woman in the gaming space. I do feel like people honestly write such mean, unprecedented comments towards her, and she, took it like a champ. She, people, will write memes about how she looks, like literally just such minute comments about her appearance, right? But instead of backing away from that, she said, no, like I'm gonna stay on this space. I'm gonna try to create positive change for this industry. I'm gonna stand up for other women. And so I made a TikTok actually about A Taste of the Past. It got like over 100,000 views too, and she liked the video. I remember I freaked out. I didn't even know why. I was like, my idol has acknowledged my existence. And honestly, like a lot of really cool people that I once admired now know who I am. For example, like Wholesome Games, they're like an organization that champions wholesome games. They have a TikTok and a Twitter, and a lot of people that I really admire work on wholesome games and curate the games that are featured for that. And they followed me. I was like, why are you following me? Like, I don't know, like I still kind of feel like at some point, even though my studio is getting all of these cool opportunities now, like I still feel like I'm just like a girl who makes silly videos in my bedroom. Like, why are people listening to me? Why are people trusting me with things? Like, it's very, very exciting.
Very cool, very cool. Thank you. Did you have any last questions before we move on? Okay, very good. So I think I'd like to say, before we wrap it up, is there anything else that you would like to say at all? Things that you can plug, where people can follow you, where you hope video games go, or things that you haven't seen in the industry? I'd like to give you the floor for the last part for any of those plugs or questions or things that you want to talk about.
Yeah, so to, I guess, plug some of my things, you can follow us on Twitter and TikTok at Sondering Studio, Sondering Studio. If you have any questions for us, feel free to email me, emily@sonderingstudio.com. You can check out A Taste of the Past. It's on Steam and itch.io. As for any final message, my thing is, like, if you're someone who is hesitant to start it in the industry, or, you're starting to make games and you're insecure that you're not good enough, or you doubt your ideas, and, especially if there's people who are doubting you, you can push past this. Something that was really difficult for me to deal with as I'm starting the industry is that, when I first started making games, I really feel like I didn't get a lot of support from the people close to me. ACM Studio, the club that I was in, was an amazing experience. Met so many awesome people in there, but I also had people in there telling me, you're not a good game developer. I don't like the games that you make. I don't think your studio is going to be successful. And, with these new opportunities that I can't say, I'd like to think that I've proved them wrong. And a lot of that was just, I can't say that there were not times I was insecure. I was insecure at many points of the road. There was one time, I remember, I was still a student at UCLA, and I walked around campus and I just cried because I thought I'm never going to make it as a game developer. I've had serious low points where I really thought, is this industry even for me at this point? But I am so happy that I pushed onwards. And I think a lot of that was just saying, even though I'm having these doubts, I'm still going to reach for opportunities as if I'm the best game developer in the world, right? For Code Coven, an opportunity that I got our game studio in, that's partnered with Unity. If I didn't think I was good enough, I just wouldn't apply, right? The application took a lot of effort, but no, I told my studio, we're gonna get it. Let's act like we've got it. Let's do it. Things like applying for Game Devs of Color Expo, right? There's a lot of really great games out there. And A Taste of the Past was something I just kind of made for fun in college, right? But no, people like A Taste of the Past. I like A Taste of the Past. Let's push it for the expo. And that just comes with, even just making the TikTok, right? I thought, people are going to laugh at me. People are already laughing at me and the games that I make. Do I really want to draw more attention to myself so I could get more hate? Yes, I did get more hate, but I also got way more support than I ever imagined. Trust in your instincts and trust that your story is worth being told.
Well, thank you so much, Emily. I appreciate you sharing your story with us, and we look forward to following you on social media. And I will be downloading A Taste of the Past tonight or this weekend, possibly. But I look forward to trying it out. And you all can follow Emily on Sondering Studios on TikTok, and that's your handle in most places. Is that correct?
Wait, it's just clear. It's Sondering Studio. There's no S at the end.
Oh, my apologies. Sondering Studio. Thank you so much. And so thank you again for joining us. You have a wonderful evening, Emily, and I look forward to seeing your progress and your stories you share on TikTok. It's an inspiration for so many. So thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
All right.
Nice to meet you.
Alrighty, and thank you for joining me. I appreciate you having you as a
Of course.
co-host.
Thank you
It's
for
nice to.
having me.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think you'll join us again for some more episodes in the future.
Probably. I
Excellent.
think a couple episodes at least.
Yeah, a couple. All right. Well, until then, this has been 3D Art Show with Gabe. Join us every week on the New Mexico on Comcast Channel 96 in New Mexico, or worldwide at YouTube youtube.com/@3D Art Show with Gabe. We're also on TikTok and Instagram and all the socials. So thank you for joining us.